Hello and welcome to today's session. I hope you're all doing amazingly well from whichever part of the world you are watching. Today is a controversial one, so brace yourself. There will be some feathers that are ruffled, but I promise you, by the end of the session, you will see why. So, today's topic is you, my hotelier friend, do not have a wellness problem. You have a wellness director problem. Yes, that's exactly what I said. You do not have a wellness problem. You have a wellness director problem. And you are the one who has created that problem. Let me explain why. I have been noticing this for a while, and I kind of had a penny drop moment last week when I was visiting a potential client here in Spain and I was sitting in the lobby cafe. Now, I was working through the cafe. I just wanted to hang out, absorb the atmosphere, see the hotel. Is this a client I would like to work with? Our values aligned. So I was sitting in the lobby in the cafe in there and working over there and just observing everyone. And I saw the GM in his salsa in the lobby area, engaging with guests and also different employees. And there was just a great vibe. And then I also saw different heads of department come and approach him and how he was also liaising with them. And I saw the director of rooms pass by, and there was a very strong kind of a handshake and a good pat on the shoulder. And you could see that they were having a very there was a lot of respect in that conversation. And then at the end of, when they were just saying goodbye, and it was just like a 5 minute or a few minute interaction. We'll meet later on in my office. And it was all very positive. That's from what sitting from where I was, I could perceive. And then, a few minutes later, I saw the director of food and beverage turn up again, a very, very friendly chat. They actually went and sat down, had a very quick coffee, and they were engaged in a deep conversation on planning and all. And it just seemed, it was a very serious conversation again on a very different level. They're talking about the business, and you could tell that, and very good vibes. And then a few, probably 15 minutes later or half an hour later, the wellness director passes by and completely different reaction. So the GM was far softer and there was a nod, there was no shaking hand, no touching the shoulder. And then there was no business talk, you could tell, because I was, just listening to the conversation. And they're talking about the sauna door. There was something wrong with the sauna door. And the GM said, I will call the director of maintenance and you can get that resolved. So we'll get the sauna resolved. End of conversation. There was no sit down, no nothing. And this, you could say, is an isolated incident. This, probably have a very different relationship with different directors, different heads of department could be valid. But this is something I have noticed. And that made me think about also, think back on when I was, the wellness director leading departments. Now, I don't have a nature or a character that is, I'm no shrinking violet. People who know me will tell you that I'm no shrinking violet. So, in one of the interviews I did with Lucia Cunha, who was the spa director and is now a hotel GM, when she used to walk in, everyone would say, the spa director is coming. So, I can definitely resonate with them. When I walk in, people would always say, that's the spa director coming, or that's the wellness director coming in, because it just have certain personalities that, have stronger, probably alpha kind of personality. And I just remember in just a very recent time when I had to go back into full time employment, being a spa director, and I had a spa manager as a number two, and she would wear her emotions on her sleeve. So it was very easy in many of her strategic meetings where if the conversation was something that she did not understand or she felt overwhelmed, it was very easy for her to cry, So you see that emotion being seen. And, I do see that across where you see predominantly, and it's not just saying women are the ones who cry and men don't. I definitely don't buy into that. And I'm a woman myself, so I don't believe in that. But I've definitely seen this typical stereotype where GMs treat us, as if we are wrapped up in cotton wool. And I remember also the hotel manager, she would also wear her emotions. And when conversations were uncomfortable, there were tears coming out. And I, being, the wellness director, they would be like, so you don't show your emotion as other people do. We can never tell what's going on in your mind. Even the director of people and culture. And I was like, what's happening here? It's like, do you speak like this to your director of food and beverage or your director of rooms or your director of sales and marketing or your director of finance? The moment you have a hard conversation, do you expect them to sit and, do the waterworks show for you? Why is it that us wellness directors, who majority are female, is that something that they expect and they have to treat us, kind of wrap us up in cotton wool? And I just found that interaction so interesting. And I was thinking, you know what? Hoteliers definitely don't have a problem with wellness. It's they have a wellness director problem. And the reason I say that is that, you know, hoteliers are very astute business people. They're managing very complex operations. They're leading hundreds and hundreds of people. Many of these people who work in our hotels are from different locations. It's a huge responsibility making all these new people feel part of a community, feel part of the brand, and also look after your guests, make your owners happy, make the local community happy, and also your operators. It's a very complex business. And, you're also getting people from different parts of the world to come and visit your hotel over the hotel next door. So you're talking about very astute and seasoned business people in a very resilient industry. Now, if they can manage food and beverage, multiple outlets, and it is a complex business, and also rooms, I am sure they can also manage wellness. So I don't think wellness is the problem with hoteliers. It's who they choose to lead the wellness area that is the problem. And that is no way because us wellness leaders aren't talented to take on the role. And it's not because our GMs, it's not their fault either. But what has happened is that we have created a stereotype where you have to be the soft person, incredibly emotional, and only then can you be that wellness leader. So it's almost that business acumen and being that wellness specialist are mutually exclusive. You can't have both. And that's kind of what we have, that kind of image, that kind of perception is what we have nurtured. I mean, this is what we have created. So, this wellness director problem we have, that is what we have created. And, the irony of this all is that GMs want a wellness leader, a very strong wellness leader. And for them, a strong wellness leader, a leader is someone who can lead that business, to lead that team, to get the sales, to get the revenue, to show up as another department head within the executive committee. That's what the GM wants. But the thing is, they do not train their wellness leaders to take on that role. They promote either a therapist who has worked very hard to become a trainer, then becomes an assistant spa manager, then becomes a spa manager, then becomes a spa director, all because they've worked up the ranks, because they're very loyal to the brand. They've proven themselves on a day-to-day basis and really, delivered outstanding results in terms of guest experience. And that is a great thing. But what they haven't done is actually train the wellness leader to take on a position that manages an asset, that manages a very strong business unit that can represent 30% of total hotel revenue instead of 3%. That's what's not happened. And that's because hoteliers have created that wellness director problem. They're the ones themselves who have not trained the wellness leaders to take on that leadership position. The irony is they want that. And with another client, I was looking at the job description for who they wanted to be the wellness director. Now, they wanted this person to have a therapist background. They wanted this person to have at least 6, 7 years of experience in the industry in a management position. They want this person to be able to do treatments, so become another therapist when needed, also cover reception when needed, come in on their day offs, do the rotas, make sure that the business is working, as well as promote the business, as well as think strategically. So I'm like thinking, Jesus Christ, I might as well want to run the Madrid Marathon in less than 3 hours, not have to train. And why not throw in Idris Elba at the end, at the finish line, giving me a big hug? Come on. It's like sometimes there is this kind of cognitive dissonance between what we expect that wellness director to be able to do and the tools we're giving to our wellness director to actually do their job successfully. And if we're going to think that our wellness director should be someone who should jump in and do treatments when needed, when they do not have enough therapists, and also be the someone who is covering reception area just because they don't have and can't afford another receptionist, as well as make this person have that ability to strategize, to run a business, to read a profit and loss, to create new menus, to create new offerings, you're talking about something practically impossible. That person does not exist. Now, we don't expect a director of food and beverage to run in and actually cook a dish when needed, cover for the chef when needed, and also cover shifts of someone who's missing. I mean, sometimes obviously your director of food and beverage is someone who helps, who is on the floor, even your rooms division director. And when needed on a one-off occasion, they do that. But you don't expect your director of rooms to be the one making the beds, or your director of food and beverage to jump in and actually go and cook a meal and then serve the meal and also take out all these promotions. But we think that our wellness director should be able to do all of that. And then if we look at the salary we give them, it's like, honestly, I think you don't have a problem with wellness. Wellness is already on the map. What you have a problem is with the position of your wellness director and your expectations around what you expect your wellness director to be able to do. So, just a thought out there. I just found this curious while I was sitting there thinking, wow, it is interesting to see how a GM and someone who's very strongly wellness focused, how the relationship with the rooms division director, the director of food and beverage is so different from the conversation they have with the wellness director. And also the expectations of what they expect that wellness director to do. I have a small profit and loss account. It barely can afford a manager. But if I am going to get a manager, I'm going to make sure I'm going to save the salary of a therapist as well as a receptionist, because the manager is going to have to cover that role. But I also want the manager to be able to manage the business unit and make, wellness an asset. It doesn't quite work that way. So I think as, GMs, owners of hotels, I think it's incredibly important to get clear that wellness was never the problem. It's what you expect from the role of a wellness director and what is realistic. And also how much you're willing to invest in their training. You you GMs have had the best schools. You've all gone, whether you've come through the food and beverage route, all rooms division. Now, there are exceptions to it, but, many have gone to a hospitality school. Many have worked their way up. They've received that solid education. We've not had that in wellness. Most of our wellness leaders are fundamentally glorified spa directors at the end of the day. And they're just taking on this role of wellness because that is where spa has kind of gone. But no one in any part of the line on the way has taught them how to manage a wellness business. And that is on our wellness leaders to actually upskill themselves, but it's also on our GMs to make sure that your wellness director is not going to say no to anything you ask them. They will try to please you, even if they know they're way off. They can definitely not manage that. So, a note to everyone, hotels, you don't have a problem with wellness. The problem is with the wellness director, how you have defined that role and the tool you're giving that person who takes on that role to actually succeed. And many times we set up our wellness leaders for failure. And when we set them up for failure, that is why wellness continues to represent, in terms of percentage, a lot less than rooms and food and beverage. When if they had the right leader and if the leader had the right training, they could definitely substantially increase wellness revenue. So on that note, I hope you can see why the subject of today was controversial. It does ruffle a few feathers, but I think it also puts many things into perspective. We don't have that wellness problem. We have a wellness director problem. And that wellness director problem is a problem that we as an industry have created. We have an unrealistic expectation of what that position can realistically achieve. And if we want our wellness leaders to actually be this strong leader that can manage a very potent business unit, then we're going to have to give them the training to take that. We can't treat them as that poor little department that we have to mollycoddle and add cotton around because obviously we are the more sensitive lot. That's not the way it works. You can still be very sensitive and lead a very strong business unit. And on that note, I wish you all a beautiful day ahead. Take care now.